Hi there, and thank you for joining me again today. I hope your 2024 has kicked off to a good start and that everything is working perfectly and positively for you. Um, Today, we're going to be looking at ruling number 9, and this is the final single primary number that we'll be looking at as far as ruling numbers go. The next videos for ruling numbers are going to be the master numbers, which are 11, 22, and 33, and a couple of power numbers. I'm not sure if they'll be one video or if I have to make a few separate ones, but I'll see how I go. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to split them. So, of course, if you've been sticking with me through the course of the series, feel free to skip this part because, of course, I'm just overviewing how we calculate the ruling number. So, for those people that aren't familiar, the number, your ruling number is the total sum of all the numbers of your birthday added up and then reduced down to a single primary number, unless you have a sequence of 11, 22, or 33, in which case they're called master numbers. Now, also, just a reminder, each single number is considered to be masculine or feminine and is associated with specific colours. For instance, an odd number such as 9 is considered to be masculine and it's associated with gold. It's considered to be, to bring activity and the energy of provision and protection, as well as abundance and prosperity, if I recall correctly. So just a reminder that nothing is purely masculine and nothing is purely feminine. Everything carries aspects of the other, and we can develop the qualities of one or the other as well. So on this slide, you can see how we get the ruling number of 9 and the numbers that you add together. So if somebody's born and the total of their birth date equals 18, it's going to be 8 plus 1 reduces down to a 9. The same with the 27, 9. What we do see here, though, of course, is the 99. Actually, I should point out that there is, if somebody's born with the numbers 81, that's quite simply calculated down to the pure form of the ruling number 9. If they are born with the 99, that is reduced down to 18, and then that is reduced further down to a 9. But the 99 is not so much a master number, but it's considered to be a power number. So we're going to be talking about power numbers and the master 99 on the next videos that are coming up. And there'll also be a reference to the numbers 77 and 88, if I recall correctly. So generally speaking, the people with the ruling 9 are very, very loving, and not necessarily the type of love of intimate partner love, because the energy of the 9 is a very loving number, but rather it's a love and regard and concern for all of humanity. I mean, that doesn't exclude intimate love and familial love and that kind of stuff. But it is a path of both responsibility and service, and so that's their inner yearnings. During their life path, the primary lesson for them is to let go of anything that doesn't promote personal growth, and this is why it's represented by the tarot card, the Hermit, because often this personal growth and development is a solitary road to awareness and expanded consciousness. And in many ways, the life path, well, for all of us, but particularly so for the 9s, is this ongoing cycle of rebirth and growth, and letting go of the ego so that the new humanitarian energy can actually come in and be adopted and embraced as part of their life. So the best way to describe this love is the divine compassion for everyone. And the ethos, I guess, is one of, when I give my life to a cause, I will find it, right? They will find their path by walking the path and giving to the path. So not only do they give their everything to whatever cause they dedicate themselves to, they will be living in the attributes fully of the 9 vibration. But the other thing I want to mention here is, of course, the 9 is associated with the badger, which is seen to have prophetic and visionary. Actually, that came out of nowhere. Actually, that wasn't on my notes. That was just something that came through just there and then. The badger definitely is considered to be a very wise animal, associated with prophecy and channeling of information. But definitely they have the capacity to be visionaries when they are living upright. So there's always that little key clause. When they're living the upright version of themselves, there's tremendous capacity for them to actually achieve these really brilliant goals. I mean, that's the same for all of us, really, depending on what our numbers are on the path. We have choices. We can live upright, we can choose to be consumed by fear. So, to expand on what we mean by visionary, it's not all about prophecy and psychic gifts and that. Somebody who has got an expanded vision has the capacity and the potential to see the big picture, right? So, bear in mind, words are layered as well. If I was to equate this to the earthly dimension, they're the kind of people that would be able to sit back, see a dispute unfolding around them, and be able to see both sides of the argument and then even step around it. That's the bird's eye view, you know what I mean, where you're looking. If you think about the eagle, who's also associated with being a visionary, the eagle flies above, and when you're flying above and you're looking downwards, you can see all, if they've got something in their sights. I'm hesitant to use the word prey within this context, but if they're looking down and they can see an object, not only are they looking down at the object and observing impartially what's going on for that person, we'll use person, they can see everything that is on the perimeters that might be a threat or might not be a threat, or might be helpful, and that helps them to make better informed decisions. And this is the case with the 9 as well. So bearing in mind that they've got this capacity to see more than most of us can see initially, that becomes part of their life path and how they can help humanity. And this is why their life purpose includes humanitarian service and problem solving, this ability to see different perspectives. But I will say that based on my experience of delivering services and doing numerological reports, it certainly does carry an element of grief. And this is potentially why they learn, or how they learn to become impartial. I'll speak about that in the negative attributes, because it's something they've got to be very mindful of. So this big perspective that they can adopt is part of what enables them to have this compassion that they hold and to be sympathetic towards other people having their problems. But because they also take on board responsibility, if they're not careful, they can actually become really burdened by their gifts or by their desire to be helpful. So honesty is paramount for them, and they will often assume that other people are as honest as what they are, which can lead to them becoming a little disappointed and disillusioned with others, especially when that trust has been misplaced. I mean, that would be the same for all of us too, but I guess where we're going here is that for the 9, they take it a lot more to heart, and if that happens, they can become very cynical and they can doubt their own gifts and ability and their wisdom. You'll often find them donating and giving things to others rather than looking after their own needs. They can be a bit self-sacrificing, and this can cause frustrations for them within romantic relationships. At the same time, interestingly, within everything I'm saying, these people can actually be quite strong personality-wise, and they can be quite opinionated because they've got this capacity to see of what people should or shouldn't do, and they've also got this innate gift on how to motivate people. So they're very idealistic, but not all of their ideas are practical as well, because this is part of learning and growing. But whatever ideas and that they aspire to, because they are inherently ambitious, the 9 will strive to implement them. That kindness, I should say, is basically like a shining light to others, and it does really warm people, and it helps people to feel hope, especially if they've been feeling a bit empty. They're also very charitable. I immediately think of one guy in Canada, actually, a Canadian farmer, if you're listening, because he's pretty loyal to me as far as listening and responding to the work that I do. He took my breath away. He made me laugh, because I understand a lot of people have a problem with the deer coming onto their farms, where for him, he felt sorry for the deer, so he actually went and fed them during the winter months and put food out for them. So this is an idea or an example of what the 9s are like. Then on the other side, they they do have these intellectual and physical levels and powers that do give them courage and the discipline to pursue their goals. Now, they can actually be quite successful should they go that pathway, and I'm talking about in business as well. If they decide to develop their creative talents and their psychic and clairvoyant abilities, they will do very well as spirit mediums and that kind of stuff. They also have a love of freedom, and in fact, when I refer to the business of doing well financially, I just looked at my notes here, and it's kind of like, material success is the birthright of these people, and it's the karmic reward for them of being humanitarian. So I think with the 9, the distinctive trait really is that when living upright, this desire to be caring to others is that prime example of gifting precedes receiving. They will reap the benefits, but of course, true, genuine humanitarian regard isn't something that is fabricated. You know what I mean? It comes from the heart. That's why they do it. And then they receive those natural gifts from the universe, if you like, the abundance. They get their rewards. Nice. So as with all of us, there's potential for helpful or unhelpful behaviours and that. For the 9, the negative tendencies can be, hypocrisy, right up there at the top, where because they actually do probably know, I think it would be fair to say most of the time they do know the right thing to do, but they don't always act on it because they're human, the same as everyone else. We know what we're meant to be doing, but we might make excuses for not doing it. Well, because these people tend to be ambitious and opinionated, it's kind of like they expect everybody to follow their advice and then they don't take their own advice, okay? And then if they have a driving ambition, that has the capacity to compromise the integrity of their visions and lead them to becoming egocentric, right? If they become consumed by their material goals and visions, it can be a right turn off is where I'm going. So they can also be quite abrupt communicators, and they can be, I think probably the better description, I've got some notes here, would be unfiltered criticism, which can be destructive to relationships. And I'm sort of trying to think how to tactfully say this. Yeah, it can be their downfall if they don't learn to manage and put a filter on, or if they become too financially consumed or forget to follow their own advice, then that's going to have negative repercussions for them. Now, one of the challenges that I've observed with many 9s, so this is not, I don't think you'll read this in literature anywhere, is that while they have this great expansive visionary capacity, when they're living negatively, it can become tunnel vision. Instead of being a wide frame, it becomes a pinpoint. It becomes very, very narrow, and I'll explain that to you. I'll just take a breath. I'm trying to be sensitive here because I'm aware that there is at least one person that might listen to this video, and I don't want to offend them, because they will know I'm talking about them because we've had quite a close connection. Okay, so because they do get their more than a fair share of pain sometimes, the person I'm thinking of definitely, and then once they have fallen into the abyss of grief, it's very, very difficult for them to pull themselves out of that and lift their eyes, if you like. They're so focused, their vision is focused on the loss, and it's very difficult to get them to shift their vision away from the loss, because it's usually people that they've loved, let's be real, to bring it back onto future plans and that kind of thing. So that's what I call about tunnel vision. They can get really stuck in it, and that just becomes their downfall, actually. There's not really a lot more I can add to that negative tendency stuff and this business of being locked in this tunnel vision of grief, except to say that they can heal, but as with everybody, each one of us, that desire to heal and raise the eyes from this pain and suffering again, they have to be willing to do that. We all do, this is part of that choices thing. But in my observations, it's very, very difficult to get them to actually get to that stage where they want to make the changes, because They feel the loss so very deeply is the best way to explain it, and they feel that loss so deeply because they are so loving. I guess that's the positive spin on it. If they weren't loving, kind, beautiful people, they might not feel that loss so deeply. Anyway, moving on to the next slide. So I guess the best advice that we can give to a person with the ruling 9 is to focus on regulating their emotions, having a balance, meditating, trying to look at positive stuff. If they find themselves being locked in rumination on the past, then try and put themselves into some kind of physical activity that takes them away from the thoughts and the visions that are running through their mind. And this takes self-discipline. Once they've got a handle on that, these grief-filled experiences actually help to shape and form their personal strength and character, I guess. And they will eventually make very excellent channelers or mediums. I'm thinking of somebody that as a famous person that can fill this description. We'll be talking about this one in the future. But their role is not one that they would say, oh, I channel a medium, but this person is particularly gifted and has done some amazing things. So we'll talk about them when we get there. So supposedly ruling 9s are often found in religious or welfare organisations, and they may be found as administrators within educational bodies or counselling and doing research and that kind of stuff. I actually would be really interested in feedback from people about this, because I'm not so much convinced about the next one, especially that they may become involved in crime-solving activities, investigations and the healing professions. But there is the point made that they'll rarely be found as a business manager or executive or CEO. Now, I'm not convinced, as I say, that any of that is right, especially with my own observations of doing ruling number 9s, well, just ruling numbers actually, or just numerology actually. I tend to find that 9s can be quite successful until they get to that point where that really big obstacle in the road. Okay, once they lose sight of their vision, then it becomes a challenge. So that might be why they don't do so well with that. What I can tell you is, based on me doing the research for this video, trying to find famous 9s, I would say just about all of them are very successful, but there seems to be an abundance of people in the celebrity and entertainment world with this ruling number. But we'll get there in the future slides. Hang in there. So now looking at the specifics of the ruling numbers, the ruling 18/9 is a vibration of renewal and suspended animation through sleep and rest. So when we're sleeping, it gives our bodies time to recuperate, of course, and to regenerate, and the mind is allowed to enter that world of the dreams, the dream space, right? So for the person with a ruling 9, they are most likely to get divine messages and inspiration from their subconscious while they're in their sleep state. They are intensely emotional, perceptive, and they also have a vivid imagination. This ability to have the prophetic dreams is not rare, actually, for people with a ruling 18/9. What else can I say about them? You might find them in alternative medicine and lifestyles, and they hold the ethos of, if you take care of your body, it will take care of you. So for them to succeed and achieve their goals and ambitions, they're encouraged to control and balance their emotional energy, to use discernment and discrimination in all things, to remember that the number of 18/9 is a mystical number, and this can sound a bit ominous, but it's not ominous, okay? It refers to the dark night of the soul, because we have to go through that darkness to be able to come out to the new dawn, if that makes sense. But when we're talking about the dark night of the soul, which I wish they'd actually probably create a new phrase for that, is if you look at this image that I've created here, it's the dark night of the soul, but the darkness allows for the moon, which symbolizes the intuitive gifts, for them to shine, right? So it's during this space that we get in touch with our own divinity and we raise that awareness. And this is the case for the people with the 18/9. And once they do that, they will start to feel safe. They will have basically they've crossed the bridge is the only way I can think to describe it. They've done it in their physical form. They haven't snuffed it. They've actually managed to connect on the earth plane. So the sequence 27.9 is one of creativity and artistic influences, and we're going to see just how abundant this is when we get down to the famous people. These people have a need for harmony and beauty, and they'll usually try and express it through their work or their home environment. They have a great spiritual strength and the ability to tap into their subconscious pool of knowledge. So these actually probably would be the people that have inherent interest in the content on the universal laws that I'm loading currently, right? They have a naturally inquisitive and curious approach to all these sorts of things, and this is because their superconscious enables them to be inspired and to come up with unique and original ideas. They can be quite prophetic as well. Well, they've certainly got that potential. And they're more than able to comprehend spiritual concepts and to apply this to the way they work, and to their understandings of humanity, which is people, and nature, and how we interact. So these type of people, or the people with the 27.9, are encouraged to always stand by their ideals, to have courage of their convictions, and not to let others sway their judgment. They are staunch believers in justice, integrity, peace, and love, and they will make every endeavour to live by these philosophies, because they're also very kind, generous, and compassionate people as well. This is the nature of the 9. They also tend to do very well financially, because this number reflects abundance and prosperity. They have, the best way to describe them is that they're true individuals, and they will go through a number of changes in their lives as part of bringing together these creative and inventive new ideas, or innovative actually ideas, to bring them through to fruition. I would say, right, so just bear in mind, I should give you some background here, because it's going to blow you away if you haven't jumped ahead to look at who the famous people are. That this content I have written up, I say to people, I don't have a book. I have a heap of notes that I've been compiling over the years from doing numerology, and these notes are drawn from that. And then when I've putting this together with my pool of wisdom, if you like, that I've recorded, and then I have a look and I Google and I try and find people with the numbers. Now, I'm blown away by the accuracy of the content on this ruling number, and this is even with all of my experience and what we see in the celebrity world for people with this sequence. So I'll move on so we can get there quicker. So the 36.9, of course, is humanitarian again. They're absolute survivors. They've got a great deal of courage and understanding, combined with a good splash of determination and spiritual insight, as well as perseverance. Their job is to bind all of these energies together as part of achieving victory over all obstacles. And because of their huge amount of compassion, they're always going to find time for others. They're dependable, trustworthy, they're good in leadership positions, they handle power well, and once they've mastered their ability of bringing all the resources together, they end up, once again, strength of character is a key attribute, and they will be very successful. Their life path does see them developing a really strong moral integrity and needing to defend it, and defend it courageously, actually, against adversity, because they're practical with a breadth of understanding that brings this insight to them. And by that I mean this inner knowing, the prophetic abilities that are inherent to the number 9. Other aspects for them, or attributes, is that they're inventive and they're creative. And because of this inventiveness and creativeness, they can make discoveries that benefit all of humanity. And, the thing is, it doesn't have to be a big thing, because I'm thinking to myself, I probably should have Googled who invented the peg or the clothesline or something like that. It was probably a 9. I probably might actually research that after I do this video. So karma is the primary theme for people born with a 45/9, but they're very determined people, and they need to be, actually. It's also associated, this vibration is associated with power and the strength to conquer their own personal desires. Now, these people really need to learn to control their emotions and to direct their behaviors into service roles, giving sincerely and compassionately through through work such as teaching. What else might there be? Teaching and service work, the humanitarian stuff. They have a highly developed intuition and they're able to tap into that spiritual consciousness with ease. That doesn't necessarily mean that they step into the business of psychics and psychic communication. They are very fair, but at the same time they can be quite secretive. They do tend to maintain their dignity and they have a tremendous amount of staying power and endurance. They will see any situation through to its bitter end, regardless of the effort that's involved and sacrifice, because they don't give up. They will stick at it. This is why they're called survivors. They have a great humility, and this humility is linked to guilt from past lives. They are encouraged to not waste any emotional energy on guilt in this lifetime, because these are illusions of the mind. They're tricks of the mind. There is a karma associated with this number in the form of repaying karmic debt, yes, and carrying karmic responsibilities. Karmic responsibilities aren't about having done something wrong. I mean, they can be, but not necessarily. In the present lifetime, they may have been given an opportunity to balance the scales of past lives, or basically, well, for want of a better description, basically it could be, well, look, you haven't done anything wrong, but if you want to go and carry these burdens, we can put that towards your karmic debt in the future. I don't know, I'm just speculating here. But they do it through the compassion and the human service. So this number is about service, divine love, and crossing barriers without any shadow of a doubt. They will succeed. They're going to get through it because they are humble, wise, and generous and caring. So once again, we're looking at diplomacy, intelligence, and unique approaches to life for people with the 54-9. They're quite gifted when it comes to written and verbal communication, and they're motivated to draw upon these gifts because they are gifts to them as part of producing balance and peace in the world, and to inspire other people to hold this level of divine compassion for all of humanity, drawing upon their humanitarian traits. Okay, they're very curious. They have this astute mental processing. We can say that their keen intellect and agile mind gives them insight into problem solving, especially if the problems are big. And even if they're not so big, they would be great people to talk over problems with, because they'll be able to take that outside perspective and help people to explore their options. They are encouraged to use their curiosity to delve into the truth behind what materializes in the world, what they see. What else can I say? They're obviously well suited to employment in diplomatic services or human resource roles. But at the same time, they've got to make sure that within whatever roles they take, that they do use discernment and that they remember that to look beneath the surface, because not everything, obviously, let me think how to phrase this one. I'll just take a pause and say thank God for a mute button again. Just a sec, I'll be back. Okay, all right, I'm back. So while they do have this expansive vision and they can see the multiple different perspectives, where they can be blinded, there is a blind spot, okay? They if you're looking from above, you might miss what's below. So they are encouraged to make sure that when they're making their decisions, that some people are quite secretive and they will hold stuff out of sight, and so that they must make sure that they dig a bit further and they be discerning, because the problem is these people are the type, the ones with the 54-9, they would be the ones that are more likely to flip out and really, if they end up being betrayed, to take that betrayal really deeply, and they will struggle to maintain emotional equilibrium. And if this happens to them, then of course it's going to impact negatively on their gifts and blessings which they've got, and that will actually also impact upon their path. which of course is to enhance humanity. So they are encouraged to make sure that they use meditation as well as part of balancing their emotions, just to keep them in balance, as balancing their emotions. Yeah, to keep them in balance overall, and to help them retain that internal peace and harmony that they need, that will inform their communication skills, because this is what they're made for. Okay, moving along. So once again, we're looking at a sympathetic, compassionate and generous nature with the 63.9s, but they tend to find their sense of fulfillment and happiness combined with contentment because of having well-developed communication or people skills. They like to consider, so they're quite analytical really, they like to consider all aspects of a situation before they make a decision, and so they do make very good counsellors and negotiators, and probably even mediation and arbitration roles are good for them. However, if they become consumed with the negative, as previously discussed, then they can become very indecisive and lose their capacity to rationalise and to make these sound logical decisions, because they're allowing their vision to be blinded by emotions. They do or will find their faith and strength will be tested at different times, and during these times they must use determination, self-control and self-discipline as part of surmounting these difficulties. Just to remind people that challenges help us to develop and grow and learn, and for them, they can expect to develop the powers of a strength of character that lies on the other side of these challenges. It will be like an awakening for them, and once they learn the control of themselves, it's going to bring greater insight into the fundamental laws of well, I guess the universe, that progress occurs through change, so there's adaptation, and that there is the opportunity for them to use that compassion that they have and selflessness that they have, because they're so kind and generous, that they can use that to enhance the whole of humanity, because this is the underlying core thread for the nines. So through spiritual consciousness, they will rise above all their problems and embrace themselves, as well as being divine specimens, if you like. We've all got the divinity within, and they will be able to acknowledge and see their own beauty, I guess. They will know, their heart will know that they are divinely loved, despite the challenges that they may face. So I'll crack on and try and get through this a little faster so I can complete this in a timely way. Okay, when it comes to numbers of 9 and modern time frames, of course, money is an issue for most people, and we all know money's not everything, but certainly to have an abundance of it helps alleviate some of the earthly issues that we have to address in a world where you've got to pay for everything. Now, for the 72.9, these are the lucky ones financially, because they are destined to reach the highest peaks of achievement on both the physical and the spiritual plane, okay? They understand at a core level that life is this series of onwards and upwards, and in a practical sense, they can apply their logic to this and achieve any goals that they set for themselves. They know that success comes through concentrated effort or concerted effort, dedication, taking on board responsibility, and being adaptable to changing environments. They've got very high standards and they aim high, and because they have these analytical skills as well, and this power of logic and rational, this supports them to achieve any material and spiritual aspirations that they set for themselves. So their life learning includes that basically riches, they can manifest abundance. I don't see them having any problems with money at all. But money's not everything. So this is what they learn, that the riches of the soul come only from their philanthropic and humanitarian endeavours, and these are their true accomplishments. Now, if they don't know it in the early years, they certainly will by the later ones. They are quite discerning and discriminating in their associations, and this is, of course, when they're living upright. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be under this vibration. And they aim to make their life useful and constructive for all of humanity. And as I said before, it's through the spiritual activities and the philanthropic endeavours that they will be able to access the higher realms of consciousness, and they'll be able to learn to control what is occurring within their physical environments. And of course, just a reminder, this doesn't mean controlling other people, but it means creating an environment of harmony. And they understand this. So this is their true wisdom. This is the wisdom they bring to the table for all of us. So now we're at that point of famous nines. Well, we have an absolute abundance of them. Okay, I'm going to read out a list of them. You've got Tom Jones, Jordan Peterson. I don't actually know who he is. I remember actually I googled him, but I can't remember who he is now. Cher is another 27.9. Robbie Williams, oh my God, I want to talk about him in a moment. Sean Locke, sadly deceased, beautiful guy. He also was a 27.9. Graham Norton, clearly a successful gentleman and highly amusing. He's a ruling, by the way, every single person I'm naming here, their ruling number is a 27/9, okay? Dwayne Johnson is also a 27/9, as is Morgan Freeman. But I thought, well, we'll speak to these three here because they're my favourites. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say they are all my favourites. I've got a lot of favourites on that list. I love Cher as well. But at the end of the day, Tom Jones, clearly very successful and was able to tap into his artistic and creative talents. And in fact, if we look at his life path, his, by all accounts, where he was raised, his life path should have taken him down a coal mine or whatever. But of course, the universe steps in, gives him a lung condition that prevents him from doing mining. So what does he do? The universe takes him down a pathway of singing for a living, where he becomes extremely successful. Has he used that for the greater good of humanity? Look, I really don't know. I haven't done research and investigations on him. I know that he's certainly had a colourful life. He's certainly had his challenges, as has Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, I don't think any of us would be able to fault. If there's any faults with him, they're certainly not publicised. And certainly when it comes to being able to sustain a long-term marriage, he has done that in ways where he hasn't been questioned. Now, actually, I just want to make the point, all three of these gentlemen are highly successful in their careers, in their chosen fields. I remember now why I didn't put Cher up, was because I actually wanted to speak about Robbie Williams. But Cher also, she would have been a fabulous person to talk about because she definitely has had a roller coaster of life and challenges. But this being able to be creative and innovative, you will go back now, I hope, after we talk about this and have a look at what it says specifically for the 27.9 and see how this applies to these three guys. Robbie Williams, of course, when we talk about having a vision, I've always questioned if he was psychic and if he had the gifts of a medium, because obviously he had that brilliant song that was a global hit, which obviously Tom Jones has had too. But for Robbie, if you recall, he made the hit Angels. That was the big one for him, I am convinced. Although he was very successful in many ways, I think it was Angels. And I mean, I think most of us will tear up. He clearly was being really guided and inspired when he wrote that song. So anyway, yes, fascinating, interesting stuff. Take a look back at what the 27.9 indicates and then have a look at the people on this board. And I actually might just create another slide before I publish this because I haven't put it on here now. But I will actually write the list of names and just have it like a 30-second slide or something like that with no voice on it, because I'm halfway through recording this and it just would be easier. But yeah, so that you can access who else is on that list of 27.9s. It's very interesting. Anyway, on to the next one. So I chose to do the birth chart on Peter Carl Faberge because he's a jeweller, and that's the only reason. All the other ones were clearly singers and actors, and I thought, let's pick somebody different. Anyway, for those that aren't aware, Carl Faberge was known, well, he was the jeweller that made and crafted the Faberge eggs for the Russian royal family. Now, there's nothing truly amazing in his birth chart that would symbolise or signify the level of fame. And I mean, he's been dead for like over 100 years now, and the craftsmanship, you know, they are still considered to be some of the best artworks in the world. I mean, I don't even hold the qualifications to speak to those eggs. I mean, wouldn't we all love one though? But so there's nothing in his birth chart that would indicate that he had those skills. The only thing that would reflect it really is the fact that he is a 27.9 and clearly they are artisans, okay? Now, what is interesting about his birth chart though is if we look at the numbers 4, 5 and 6, while I haven't put the arrows on here, that indicates an arrow of the will. Now, we can talk about the arrow of the will and what that might mean for him, because this is kind of, it carries over to anybody that's got a 4, 5 and 6. And basically what this means is that they're usually very difficult children to raise because they're very determined to have things their way or to get what they want. And because part of their life path is to learn to be able to assert in positive ways, you know, instead of demanding. Okay, so the arrow of will is about power and balance, and it's associated with the Kundalini force that runs up and down the spine. So people with this arrow will usually ignore their psychic gifts and their intuitive gifts. Just through their sheer will and determination, they will repress them, and they'll ignore any of the intuitive information or guidance that they get. This is generally, okay, this is because remember, everything about life is about growth and development. So clearly I would say in the case of Faberge that he would have done this, but he would have worked through it. He would have come the other side of it, okay? They will repress anyway their intuition, and they will ignore the advice of other people, and they rarely, apparently, step into the power of their birth numbers. Sorry about that, I need to have a sneeze. Anyway, so while they rarely step into the power of their birth numbers, they do manage to incorporate their personal power once they've learned to apply balance across all areas of their life. That's the mind, body, spirit stuff. And once they've managed to incorporate that into their daily living, then they learn to have the courage and strength to shift through any of the adversities that they come to. Now, I think that we could safely say that he actually did do that, although he's on the record as having passed away from a broken heart in Switzerland in 1920. You know, and they say that he never recovered from the Russian Revolution. Look, that might be true. When we talk about grief and loss and a narrowing of the vision and being locked into suffering, that would happen under the best of circumstances, I think, for anybody that was actively involved in the revolution. But within the context of him, he would have been very close. Well, he was very close to the Russian royal family who were executed, as were many members of the aristocracy who were also his clients. So he would have been, I would imagine, absolutely traumatized with, you know, so much death and loss that occurred, especially to those people in his personal social network. And he would have been very lucky to have got out alive out of Russia at that time. So that signifies that he actually was listening to his intuition or guidance from somebody somewhere, because he survived and he managed to leave Russia. But yeah, I can imagine that, look, okay, he was at an age where, you know, I think, 74 when he died. His death wouldn't have taken people by surprise normally, but at the same time, there's every possibility that at that age, he just would have really struggled to bounce back from those kind of multiple losses. So anyway, that makes sense to me. So there we go. We've looked at the famous nines. So my friends, that's it for this video. We've now looked at ruling number 9 and the different ways to get there and the different pathways to live it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I thank you for being part of my journey again. I look forward to seeing you on the next videos, which of course we're going to be looking at master numbers. And anyway, in the meantime, perhaps I shall see you on the Friday video, perhaps I'll see you in the healing video. But until I speak to you next, I wish you well and I thank you very much for your ongoing support. Take care, have a blessed week, and bye-bye for now.